Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, the Red Raiders' backs are against the wall as they head to Provo, Utah to dance with the Cougars of BYU on Saturday night. We've got keys to victory. We're into next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right. Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. And thanks to those who are making us their first listen on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more right now. And if you're a new customer, you can bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets, guaranteed, by visiting FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. And Chris, we're getting started with your conversation last night with Red Raider head coach Joey McGuire. I know that you've had a conversation with him within some frustrating weeks. Some of those going to pile up if you're 3-4 to this point in the season. But I wonder, was there a different variety of frustration? Because I really feel like going back to last Saturday, that had to be one of the more disappointing outings of the season. Even in some of your other losses, you felt like, we're right there, but you weren't really right there against the Wildcats. So what was the vibe check like with Coach McGuire?
Yeah, I think Joey's always going to have a positive spin on things and be somewhat upbeat, but there's definitely he's not as upbeat as he usually is, and understandably so. And I think frustration probably is, we didn't get a result. Why is who hates our quarterbacks? Why do they continue to get hurt? But I think the way he really kind of termed it and summed it up best in football terms is that he goes, "Hey man, it's 4th and 1 in our building right now, and everybody knows it." And he goes, "And we're all, right there on the line of scrimmage, and we got to go get a yard," kind of thing. And they know that if you start doing the math, they've played 7 games. They have 5 opportunities left, one including Saturday night versus BYU. If you want to get to a postseason, you got to hurry. And there's just not a lot of opportunities left. And so, I think sense of urgency. And I obviously it's still, quote unquote, game time decision with Baron Morton and Jake Strong. But we talked a lot about Brady Boyd and then some of the other things that they would potentially do as contingencies. But I just think people need to be prepared for all options, because I think it could be anything from Baron and Jake, Jake and Brady Boyd. But you may see multiple quarterbacks Saturday night. You just don't know. So that's where they're at. And and then Cal, when you factor in that I think BYU is 19-1 in their last 20 night games. They are 17-1 in their last 18 night games at home. So they've won a couple of night games away from Lavelle Edwards Stadium. But it's like this place is talked about like this magical existence when the sun goes down. But they are especially good there. The record shows it at night. I don't have the list of who they've beaten, but typically BYU plays a fairly competitive independent schedule, at least they have. So this is just, again, and they're going to play better at home, and you're going to have to figure it out. But again, it's 4th and 1, according to the head coach. So, that's just the mindset and kind of the vibe check, if you will.
Yeah. All the cliches, right? Back against the wall, we're in a corner, 4th and 1, et cetera, which you really do kind of feel that way. I know, being relevant in the conference as far as that race is long gone, has disappeared like flatulence in West Texas win. But a bowl game pursuit for a second consecutive season still on the table. And as far as I'm concerned, I come into this year projecting 8-4. And you and I talked a lot about the fact that you could be as good, maybe even slightly improved this season and wind up with the same record, or worse, maybe 7-5, 6-6, because of what you were facing within this schedule. So either way, goals are still out there to be achieved if you want to get back to the postseason for a second consecutive season under Joey McGuire, which I do think is a step in the right direction for this program, regardless of what the offseason hype balloon or banner read in the sky. If you get back to the postseason, I think that is an appropriate second season step, but it's still out there for you. But yeah, your backs are firmly against the wall, even on that bowl eligibility front, right? I mean, you're sitting here sub 500 and time is running out.
Yeah, and I think because what I hear you saying is that stability within the postseason, and like you've sustained it a bit now that you've started string some years together like we were used to seeing in different eras. But I think one of the things that we knew when we looked at the whole thing before the season, your schedule was sneaky tough compared to like what I guess some others were. But like, look at it now. I mean, at BYU on a Saturday night, TCU is kind of, you're not real sure what to make of them, but they've kind of had your number, and that they seemingly are putting it together now. You've got a trip to Lawrence, Kansas, which that seems a bit scary right now based on their skill. We know how good Texas could have a national championship like vibe to it, and like they cannot afford to drop one, or it costs them everything. When you get to that point, and then like UCF looks like the easiest game on paper, but they've been struggling because their starting quarterback has been out, and now he returns, and John Rice Plumlee will be back and all that.
Did you guys get into, and this goes back to something we talked about maybe a week ago, like maybe you find a new connection as you have some new quarterbacks in the mix. We thought it or hoped it would just be Baron Morton that we were talking about. Like which receiver maybe he established something with. Maybe now seeing that with Jake Strong as well. Time will tell on Saturday, but I think everybody knows the receiver that's popped up, Coy Aken. Finally, after so much discussion, did you and Coach McGuire visit about Coy?
We did, and man, this is why you're a professional, man. That is one heck of a segue, man. My cap is tipped. That is monster stuff right there. Well done, Coy. Yeah, I think he is somebody that just dominated. Okay, and I don't say this lightly. Like in the spring and in August when he was healthy, he was arguably the best receiver out there as far as like those settings. Now, does he have anything? Did he have any body of work to, whatever? He hadn't done it in real games. No, none of that. If you were out there like, who is this dude? And then he gets dinged up in the spring and then fall camp, and so it's like you're just not sure. But this is really kind of what we saw, throughout the offseason. And he plays at one speed, and he's young, but he's got some size to him. And there's a reason he led the state of Texas in receptions his senior year. He runs routes well. He catches it well. He's got some make you miss to him. But this is just the start for Coy Aken. But I'll tell you the compliment that Joey McGuire gave Coy Aken. We were talking about Coy, and he said, I'll tell you how much I think of Coy. He goes, because Coy plays so hard. He goes, typically – players practice hard and then they play well. He goes, but you can practice your way from a good player into a great player. And he goes, this is what Coy Aken is doing right now. He goes, I'm going to give you an example of that. He goes, at mid-year, and we know there's some fairly high-profile kids committed to your school right now that will show up in mid-December. And he goes, I will make sure that when we introduce them to the weight room and what we do here, that Coy Aken will be on the rack right next to him, because I want those skill guys, to learn exactly how Coy does it, because this is what's translating. So very high praise because I think, you're talking about I'm just going to surmise the Will Hammonds, the Micah Hudsons, Cameron Dickey, some of these running backs that all those. But it's like I want Coy Aken right there so they can see how he does it, because this is how we want you to do it, how he does. So I thought it's a pretty good compliment. But hey, man, I expect him to be making plays, Saturday night and going forward the rest of the year. And I think you'll look for him to be targeted quite a bit too, and rightfully so.
Don't know him personally and only getting to know him as a player, but it seems like his care factor is 10 of 10. So you could use a lot more of that going around as you head to Provo. Okay, we've talked a lot of quarterback play this week regarding the Red Raiders. We've already mentioned names today in Baron Morton, Jake Strong, Brady Boyd, or beyond. Get loosened up if you're going to be in the crowd. You never know. Your name might be called. Where's Matt Williams on Saturday night? But let's step to the other sideline, Chris, and let's talk about the BYU QB, who has had quite the interesting path to arrive as the BYU QB. We'll talk about Kedon Slovis and hear from the guy tasked with stopping him, Tim DeRuyter, coming up next. Locked On Texas Tech. First, today's episode brought to you by Betterhelp. And I know all of our lives are filled with uncertainty, which path to take, or just how to get down the road in general. And the answers aren't always clear, but there is something that could be of aid. Whether it involves your relationships, your career, or anything else, talking through it with BetterHelp can help you stay connected to what you really want while you navigate the course of your life. So visit betterhelp.com/lockedoncollege today. That's betterhelp.com/lockedoncollege to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P as in Patrick, betterhelp.com/lockedoncollege. Head there today, get 10% off your first month, and get busy charting your life's course with BetterHelp. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book and the official sports book of Locked On. And fall is in the air. Helmets are on heads. Briskets are on smokers. And the action is with America's #1 sports book. And there's never been a better time to join in on that action than right now, because new FanDuel customers can bet only $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. So dive in and join in on the fun with FanDuel by downloading their safe, secure, and easy-to-use app, where you can bet on all things under the sports sun. And when you're a winner, you're always paid instantly with FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon and sign up today to bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed with FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Glad to have you along for the ride on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Hope you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. With Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Let's turn our attention to the BYU sideline now as we take a closer look at BYU quarterback Kedon Slovis. We'll start with a look from Texas Tech defensive coordinator Tim DeRuyter.
We've got Kedon Slovis, very veteran quarterback. I think he was still at USC back when I was a couple schools ago. Very strong-armed guy. They've got some veteran receivers, a lot of long guys that can run, throws a really good vertical ball. He's got a strong arm, can throw it, the outcut to the field. So you got to worry about that. They're going to, try to establish the run game and get throws off of it. Not a traditional RPO-ish type offense, but more traditional play action, bootlegs, those type of things. They want to mix it up. They're about 50-50 run pass, but right now the pass, they've had more explosive plays out of that than the run.
Kedon Slovis is one of the most experienced quarterbacks in the country. I mean, he's got over like 11,000 career passing yards. Tim DeRuyter went against him in 2019 when Slovis was at USC. What has not helped them, and we'll get into this more when we talk keys to the game here, because these kind of morph, is that what Slovis doesn't have is he doesn't look to run. Okay, that's not his deal. And then their running game in general is the worst in the country almost. I mean, it's like you think you're not running it well at times. You're lapping the folks in wearing blue here. That they are 132nd out of 133 teams. They average like 65 yards a game. And you're going, well, we ran it for 150. Wasn't a very good day for us. No, think about that. I mean, they're averaging like 2.3-ish a carry. So that is what I think has really hurt Slovis and his ability, because it's just they're very one-dimensional. And I think if you're Texas Tech, I mean, just a little key to the game here for you. I'll just go ahead and, you want to keep them that way. But Slovis he's more than experienced. And I think he's the he's kind of the scary guy going against him in this game for sure for BYU.
Man, you just don't get that much experience on the other side of the line of scrimmage all that often. We kind of saw something similar with Bo Nix, I guess, earlier this year. But
it's exactly a great comparison.
Over 11,000 yards. That's
this
crazy.
Is Tyler Shuck. I mean, this is
Yeah.
Bo Nix. I think it's a great point. I mean, it's just somebody that he's bounced around. This is his third different school, but he is wildly experienced. And there's a reason he's still in college. Now, that's the
True.
You know, if you're good in elite, you know, you go ahead and go to the next level because they're just dying for quarterbacks at the NFL level and to draft you. But there's a reason he's gone from USC to Pitt now to BYU.
That's true. Let's go ahead and get into keys to victory. Assuming such a thing could be possible on the road, let's not forget the road in and of itself has proved a large challenge, but you've already heard the record that Chris Level has thrown out for BYU in a night game in their house. Pretty daunting, Chris, but whether it's Kedon Slovis or otherwise, where do we begin when it comes to Texas Tech carving out a path to a win? First, today's episode brought to you by Birddogs, making you look good, feel great with their stretch shorts that fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you that sculpt your woman has always wished you had, whether you knew it or not. Way more flexible than stiff, restricting shorts you've had before, thanks to that cloud knit fabric, always made with cage-free, free-range clouds. And don't forget about the anti-stink, sweat-wicking fabric, keeping you cool and dry on any occasion. Golfing, grilling, chilling, four-wheeling, car dealing, woman thrilling, doesn't matter. I'm serious when they say they're good for everything. So good, you won't want to take them off, we promise. Go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. That's birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. Or enter the promo code LOCKEDONCollege at checkout for a free custom water bottle with every order. That's birddogs.com/lockedoncollege or the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for a free custom water bottle with every order. And you won't ever want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise. See for yourself at birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. Where do we begin when it comes to Texas Tech carving out a path to a win?
Well, so I will tell you, too, one of the other things I found about the old Cougar faithful is that I guess the visitors section is near one of the tunnels. And I guess in the second half, they will the fine folks there at BYU will hand the whole, well, I guess what would be the Texas Tech section, they'll hand out ice cream.
They'll hand out ice cream?
They hand out ice cream, yes.
Is it like jammed with X-Lax or what's going on?
To all the I know, and part of me is like, man, should I
Careful.
eat this? Yeah, like what's in the potion here? But no, I think this is just their friendly nature supposedly.
Okay.
So anyway, if you're going to this game, you're watching this, you're going to this game, you're sitting in the visitor section. Because I was able to tell Coach McGuire's wife this last night. I'm like, your call, but I don't know whether you should eat it or not. Yeah.
Drop one down for the sideline man, by the way.
Yeah,
sideline
right.
reporter Chris Level.
But I think you can't be one of the intangibles here is that I think there's a lot of like anticipation and kind of almost oddly enough looking forward to this environment. And I don't think you need to be like enamored with it if you're on the Texas Tech side of it. Because it is a road game. I think they're going to be really nice to you up until the kickoff, and then they're going to start yelling really nice things at you. So I think, but this is still, if you're watching this on a Friday, know that the team will land and go visit the stadium and all these things and kind of check those off the boxes. I talked to Jalen Hutchings about that on the coach's show. And he feels like, and he's an old head, but right. He feels like this helps. I like doing that. I think it's good for the younger kids. But he goes, I haven't ever been there. I've never been to Utah before. So I just think that handling the environment is going to be an intangible or a key. But more specifically with football, as I just said, man, they must remain one-dimensional. I'm almost wondering how Tim will play this defensively because, like, if they have any success running the ball, this is not going to go well because they have had just – I don't think we can understand how much they have struggled running the ball. They average 65 yards a game on the ground. Their quarterback is no threat to run it. He gets sacked on occasion. He is a pure drop-back quarterback that's not a great athlete. So you almost kind of, do you play coverage most of the time? do you kind of say, man, we don't think you can run it. Good luck. But we're I don't know. I don't know how that chess match will go. And, can you get home with rushing 4? But that will be the game within the game right there. Because if they are able to run the ball with some success, it may not go well because they do throw it around decently. Okay. But you just want to keep them one-dimensional. The other thing is I think that BYU is whereas they one of the worst in the country in the running game, they are one of the best in the country in their turnover margins. They have created 11 takeaways in just 6 games. On your end of it, you've only created 8 takeaways in 7 games. So you've got to avoid the turnover. This is how they stay in games and how they feast. Is the margins are just fairly even. Last week against TCU, they got blown out, but it was 2-2. I mean, they don't make many mistakes on offense, and then they create the takeaways on defense because they're going to blitz. That's the other thing. They are going to send blitzes. They're going to be very aggressive on defense. And I told you earlier this week, their defensive coordinator's like, something's happening. Like we're going to force the issue, and your O-line better be able to handle it. And if you could pick it apart and know your hot reads and all those things, I think you'll have some success because TCU nearly threw for 500 yards. My last key is I'm going to guess, Cowan, this game is going to be – I think if you give me 28 points, I may take it and say, you know what, I'm going to take my chances. I think that's enough to win. I think the team that wins this game scores 24, 27, 28. Maybe it takes 31, but I bet this is a fairly mid to lower scoring game, okay?
Yeah.
So field position is going to be big. Neither one of these offenses have necessarily been explosive, but you have 2 of the best punters in the country here. The Ray Guy folks better be in the stands watching these dudes because I think Austin McNamara, and I think his name, I'm going to make sure I say it right, Ryan Rakow, I think I said the last name correctly. They almost average exactly the same when it comes to average yards per punt. These are 2 of the best dudes punting it. Nobody wants to see them, okay, on Saturday night unless you're a defensive coordinator and it's like, bring on the punter.
What correction? I would love to see Austin McNamara. This field position you mentioned, flipping the field. What the hell are you talking about? This is like Spanish you're talking to me. Yeah, Punt-a-Palooza Saturday night. If you're a punt fan, there's never been a greater day for punting than Tech and McMurray met up and punted like 75 times between each other in 1932 or whatever. That was a real game. Look it up. But yeah, I would love to see Austin McNamara used. It's not just the opposing defense or his mom. That's the only one that loves to see him on the field. Seems like I'm scratching my head, but there was a 4th down where you had a lead against a top 15 team that I would have loved to have seen Austin McNamara on the field, but we didn't see him on the
Analytics,
field.
Man. Yeah, well, and I'll tell you, I think that you'll go about, I mean, I don't know how you're going to go about it, but what you may get into, let me phrase it that way.
Yeah. Like
Iowa State last year. The weather won't be a factor like it was at Iowa State. That dictated some of that in names. But the point remains the same. It's like it's not going to take too many points. You just have to kind of see what kind of game you're getting into. I just don't know if you want to do anything to help BYU's struggling offense by giving them the ball at the 50 or the 40. And I get being aggressive and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'd pin them. As much as I could.
It's kind of funny, Chris, because I feel like we could sit here for the next 100 years going back and forth on this because you say bad offense, you don't want to help them, so pin them. And I'm thinking like, could I make the argument going back to the Oregon game, hey, great offense, you don't want to help them, pin them. So it's kind of like which way, what's your preference? Which way do you want to go? Either you could make an argument for, but I wonder almost if it would lead Tech to be more aggressive because they're like, hey, it's only, Mr. 2.4 yards per carry over there.
It's a great point. It's absolutely a great point. And that's why shows like ours exist because there are no right answers. It'll be debated for the next 100 years, and wins and losses will happen over the next 100 years, and plays will be called differently, and you'll see things change. And like, oh man, remember when they were running the wing tee, and look, it's back. I mean,
remember when it was humans and not a video game?
Yeah, that's right.
Because that's where we're headed, folks.
But you make a great point, and it's just different mindsets or schools of thought. I just was kind of. thinking of the way that Iowa State game was played because, Iowa State's, defense just, or offense, I should say, struggle. But, yeah, you make a valid point too, man. And part of it, you have to see kind of what kind of game you get into. As it gets going, okay, this is a little more speedier and faster, and there's going to be more points that, scored in this thing than I thought. But, I think you make a great point, actually.
I'm kind of having some flashbacks as you're talking about BYU bringing heat. Seemed like K-State really brought heat a week ago, and it was almost like at that point the offense was thinking, all right, I don't know what to do. We got a freshman quarterback. Do we check it 30 yards down the field? Yes, let's go with that. It's like I was making a joke last week. There are no good options, I guess. I don't know. It's kind of what it felt like. 4th and 2. None of our plays are any good, so we're going with I don't know. Is there anything you think on that K-State tape that BYU saw that they're like, hell yes, we're bringing massive fire, and that just rattles them out of the whole playbook almost?
Well, they
do you think similar, or is it going to be a different type of pressure, I guess is what I'm asking.
I don't know if Kansas State sent as much their blitzing was more like playing coverage and then run blitzing, from linebackers and things like that, whereas I think BYU they just kind of they bring them from all. But here's the crazy thing: they will force you into some mistakes. However, what they don't do well, they've only sacked the quarterback 7 times all season, which is one of the worst in the country. So as much as there's just some weird things that stick out with BYU, the way they've played the game, and they haven't played the toughest schedule either. I mean, they beat Cincinnati, one of the worst teams in the Big 12. And they beat them at home barely on a Friday night. They go win a close one in Fayetteville. Arkansas, I don't know if it's won since. They're 0-4 in the SEC. They're 2-5 overall. Arkansas is not very good right now. So, although I do think it's very difficult to win in Fayetteville, but point still stands. But those are really the 2 games, and so I think you've got a little more juice on your team than they do. Okay. And I think, hopefully we see some of it, but you've got the ability to, if you pick off a pass, like Malik Dunlap, can he get in the end zone? Can Dre McCray do something in the special teams game to kind of flip this game a little bit or turn it? Because if you steal a score here, boy, I like your chances more so than in most games.
Just provide a little separation and you would like your chances as far as keeping them at bay. Or go the other way. If you're a lifelong native, lifelong Red Raider, just pick the terrible statistic for the opponent. Which one will be the total opposite? 7 sacks on the season. Will they get 15 against Tech? 2.4 yards per carry. Will they go for 8 yards per carry against Tech? It seems like there's always one of those. It's like, wait, Avery Johnson, I never heard of her. 5 touchdowns. Good grief. Like I told a K-State fan in the YouTube comments, because I called him an unknown. I said, we have a cherished tradition of turning unknowns into conference players of the week. K-State guy said, hey, he wasn't unknown. He's an Elite 11, dude. I said, down here, homie, Avery Johnson is a former San Antonio Spurs point guard. I never heard of this guy until he's in the end zone 5 times. But, we do that on occasion. Hopefully not on this occasion. Chris, you ever been to Utah?
No.
Inaugural trip?
And neither has Texas Tech football has never played a game in the state of Utah. So
Look
this
out.
is when we fly over that state border, man, we're breaking the seal on the on Utah. And now we're going to major in Utah with the Utes and the Cougs, going at it because we're staying in Salt Lake, which is where the University of Utah is located, and then obviously Provo is about 40 minutes outside of Salt Lake. And so, it's like, cats and dogs, they do not like each other. The old, the holy war, I guess is what they call it.
Keep your head on a swivel because they can be a prickly bunch out there in Utah. Stay away from Mountain Meadows. Mountain Meadows Massacre, 1857. Don't know if you ever dialed into that or not, but may want to take it in. Just keep your head on a swivel. Prickly.
And eat the ice cream.
And so we need a taste tester like for royalty once upon a time. Whoever's sitting by Debbie McGuire, you take a bite of that ice cream first, okay? She's not taking the first bite of that ice cream, the queen of Texas Tech football. Give me a break. Maybe we'll review the ice cream taste testing on Monday with you. So hang tight and join us again to find out. Chris, safe travels to Utah. Hope you get a cougar tail. Hope you get ice cream. Hope you get whatever you want. Most importantly, a Red Raider win, man. And we'll be back to react on Sunday. So we'll see you then.
It's a big one, man. Appreciate it. Been a good week. We will talk to you next time.
That's right. Subscribe on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. For Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Thanks for joining us again, and we'll see you for the next round. on Locked On Texas Tech.